What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader, and this is the video that everyone has been waiting for, and by everyone, I mean absolutely no one. This is part 2 of the Hakes coverage from the March 22 auctions. We just covered yesterday some of the incredible items that sold, including the record-breaking, record-shattering J-Slot prototype rocket-firing Boba Fett. That's a mouthful, and that is what she said. Let's dig right into the rest of the items. There were so many good items that I couldn't cover everything. So I picked out some highlights. I picked out some ones that were actually fairly priced for once, and including a few that I was thinking about bidding on. But some of the prices in this auction as well, or in this lot of items, were pretty incredible. Probably some of these items you'll never see ever again. So just keep that in mind. Hakes attracts, as I've talked about, a different kind of buyer. But more importantly, that I didn't talk about yesterday, it attracts a different kind of seller. Some of these items are one of ones, one of twos, one of threes. And if I'm a seller right now, in the current environment, Hakes is where to go to list these items. I don't know what they charge sellers for the right to sell in their auctions, but you know, there's an 18% buyer's premium that the buyer pays, and I assume that pays for a pretty big chunk of the auction costs. But these sellers have got to be really, really happy with the prices they've got. Let's look at this one. This is a white, unpainted, first shot prototype Luke Hoth Stormtrooper gear. And, you know, I've seen this item a few times. There's one that was sold on Facebook. Shout out to Ryan A., who had one of these. I think he had an AFA 90. This was an AFA 85, white limbs, brown torso. So a nice, really good example of an ESB pre-production. And in general, the Empire Strikes Back pre-production items, they tend to command a pretty big number because they're just not as numerous. There are a fair amount, or a large amount of, surprisingly, the early figures, the first 12 figures, things like that. A lot of those are survivors, but I don't know what happened during the ESP production. I'm not a pre-production expert, but it just seems like in general, the premium that's attached to pre-production and first shot prototype ESB characters, they get big dollars, really big dollars. And this one was no exception. This one sold for $11,000 and change, which is slightly above the high value max value code that Hakes assigned to it. And I don't think that's really that far off, because there was, as I mentioned, an AFA 90 that was sold, or at least advertised for sale on Facebook, that was around 10 grand. So maybe even slightly below that, 9,000 and change. So I don't think 11,000 in the current environment is that far off. And it's just one of those really nice items. There are a few other prototypes that were listed. This one I thought was actually pretty fair. This was a first shot AT-AT Commander, unpainted. Beautiful figure. I would have loved to bid on that. You can see just a little bit of yellowing right here on the torso, and that's probably why it got the 80 grade. You can see it received the ungraded, or the 80 grade for an unpainted example. But I think it's because of the torso yellowing that's going on there, and that happens on the retail production figures too. You know, that have been kind of assembled and painted and all that. But anyway, the value code on that one was $2,000 to $5,000. I was expecting around $2,500 based on some of the ones I've seen for sale in the prototype exchange on Facebook, and it sold for $2,714. So not too far off, really. That's a pretty good price for a really nice example. This is another one. I think we've seen another one of these sell in a previous Hakes auction. This is a beige plastic first shot Probot from the playset, from the you know, the Hoth Ice Adventure playset. Don't quote me on the name of that, but really cool item to see one of these unpainted. The value code was 5 to 10, so clearly Hakes had a pretty wide range in terms of where they thought it would sell, and it sold for $11,112. I have no idea if that's fair or not. I don't remember what the last one sold for in the last auction. You can go check it out in my videos. I've got a few Hakes auction kind of coverage videos that are on my channel. You can certainly look them up. And but you know, this was above the range, so it's one of those items that's pretty popular. But I have seen this one for sale at least one other time, either at Hakes or maybe on Certified League. I don't remember where. Then we started getting into some of the production retail figures that I thought were mind-blowing. And I think this is a perfect example of what I was talking about in yesterday's video, how there's got to be some international money people that are big whales that don't want to deal with eBay, but we saw one of these less than 2 or 3 months ago. The exact same card, the exact same grade. AFA 80 21 back R5D4. And it sold for about $900 on eBay. This one, exact same grade as I mentioned, sold for $2,162. And I'm not talking a long time ago here that one sold for $900. It was about 2 or 3 months ago max. So it's just kind of crazy, some of these final sales prices. This one is even a bigger example. I don't know what is going on. I understand that there is a multiple that people are willing to pay going from on a carded figure to go from an 80 to an 85. An 85 is a near mint plus example. It tends to command a pretty massive premium. I also know that these high-end discerning collectors, they love unpunched and they love no price sticker. But this is an AFA 85 32 back B Bosk. Now, the final sales price after factoring in the buyer's premium was $4,153. That is complete and total insanity to me. I could see that price if this was a 31 back where the population of those is almost zero. There's less than 20 of those 31 backs Bosk available. It's just extremely hard to find. The 32 back B is not a very difficult one to find. And again, I know it's high grade, but we're talking, this is easily a multiple of 300% of where I think the market value is for this one. The value code here of 1,000 to 2,000 by Hakes, that's the right number. That, I was thinking 12, maybe at the very high end, $1,500 for this item. And selling for $4,153, I have no idea at all what is going on with this market. It had to have been two big whales fighting against each other. It probably came down to two buyers that were just bullheaded, and they had to have it. So it's just a crazy number. This was a little bit closer to market. I feel like this was a 41 back D Yoda brown snake. It was a yellow blister, but only slightly. Here it is here. Really nice. This is a really nice example. That one sold for $1,427 after the buyer's premium. I think that's a pretty fair price in the current environment. We've documented a number of ESB Yodas that have just been skyrocketing in price, and I think that given everything else that's in this auction, I think that was actually not too far off of market. This is another one that I don't understand what was going on with buyers' mindsets here, but this was a 41 back A survival kit offer 21B. It was punched as well, so it's not like it was an unpunched example. Now, it was an 85. I get that. It was an 85 grade. But, the value code was $700 to $1,000. That's exactly where I would expect it to go. $800 to $900 was my number. It sold for $2,596. So, these prices are so far beyond market value that good luck getting your money out of that one. I don't know what people were thinking. Again, here's another one. I know that Dengar is popular. I know that he's really expensive. We documented one in the last Hakes auction that was an AFA 80. It might have been an 80 plus. Don't quote me on that. But that one sold for about $1,100, maybe $1,200. This one was an AFA 85, unpunched, no price sticker. So a gorgeous, flawless example. Very, very tough figure to find in near mint condition. But you can see the paint wear on the face. It's probably got some degradation going on there. I don't know. Let's see if you can see how much degradation is already happening inside the blister on Dengar's face. He's got that yellow face paint. The value code was $200 to $400. I knew that was low. I was expecting $1,500 or so. It sold for $3,551. So, I don't know what to say other than, if this is not the classic definition of bubble pricing, I don't know what is. Now, here's the only one out of the entire Hakes auction that I was thinking about bidding on, but I think I was just so disgusted with myself and with overall prices that I was like, I don't need this. I don't want to bid on this. But it was a gorgeous example of the 41 back A 21B on the Kenner Canada card. Gorgeous example. It was punched. And here's the back with the La Guerre des Étoiles, l'Empire contre-attaque. Gorgeous figure. So I was thinking about bidding on this one. It was an AFA 80, clear blister. Really nice. The value code was right on the money. It sold for $551 was the winning bid. I would have gone higher than that, honestly. I don't know. I just wasn't in the mood to buy. You guys saw my collecting fatigue video from about a week ago. I've still got that. I still got a smidge of fatigue, so I didn't bid on it. But I think that was probably one of the steals of the auction, in my opinion. If you happen to be one of the folks that bought that, congratulations, because that was a very fair price in my mind. Here was another one. This was an AFA yellowed Luke Hoth Luke Hoth outfit, and it had yellowed since grading, very slight yellowing, but it was an AFA 85. You can see how it start to yellow there after grading. So the grade is no longer applicable, and it also did have a big Toys R Us sticker, and it was punched. That one still sold for $14.92 though after the buyer's premium. So a little higher than I expected, but it was an 85, and you know those are going to get big numbers. This is the other one I really wanted, but it kind of blew past my number that I was willing to pay very early on. But this is the debut card for the Cloud Car palette, the 45 back. One I still want and need in my collection. I've got a number of Cloud Cars, but this is the one I really wanted. This is an unpunched AFA 80, kind of right in my wheelhouse. It's not an 85 that would go for stupid money. It's not a 75. An AFA 80 is kind of exactly what I want, but the value code I thought was a little low. I was expecting kind of maybe $800 to $900, but it blew past my number. It didn't go too high though. It went for $1,168 and change. That's a little higher than I was willing to go on mine, but that's a nice item, a really nice item. And you know, given where everything else is sold in this auction, I don't think that's an overpay really. I'll probably never be able to get one just based on that price. Here's another one I thought was a really fair price. This was a 45 back Sand People. AFA 80. It did have a 75 subscore, which tends to keep the price down a little bit. That sold for $534. It was kind of a partially unpunched. You can see that the top of the tab had a little bit of wear there, but I thought that was a great price for a really exemplary kind of example of the Sand People. It didn't have any staining on the cape, nice clear blister, just really good example. And, you know, again, the 75 subscore, this is a good strategy that I've used with my own collection, that if you get something with a 75 subscore, but the overall is still an 80 near mint score, you can often get it for quite a bit less than if all the subscores were 80 or 85 or 90. So that's a good strategy. I did that with my Tri-Logo R5D4, as well as my 45 back Star Wars Display Arena R5D4. I had card subscores for the there was at least one subscore that was a 75, and that helped keep the price down a little bit. But anyway, that was $534. I think was a pretty good price. Here's another one that's extremely rare. This is the Kenner Canada Sears exclusive shrink wrapped, and these are extremely popular. I don't know all the characters. I know that there is an R2D2 with periscope. There is the Han Bespin. There is the Lobot. It might be an Ugnaught, don't quote me on that. But, you know, there's a few characters where they're Sears exclusives that came on these plain cardboard, backer board type of things with kind of the rivets and punch holes in the card. And they were vacuum sealed to these kind of overstock card backs. Really, really cool to see one of these. Oftentimes you can see these on eBay already opened. And even already open, they can go for $1,000 plus. But this is a true sealed, vacuum sealed kind of overstock figure that Sears had. I don't know the whole story on them, but it's a qualified score. I think because it's hard to kind of verify exactly whether, you know, I think there's something about AFA's mindset when they grade these as to how they view these vacuum seal figures. So I don't know exactly what the reasoning is for the qualified, the Q label on there, but it was a 70, 85, 85, and that's about as good as you're going to find. I mean, I very rarely see. I don't know the last time I've seen one of these that were graded any higher than that or for sale. But the value code on that one was 5,000 to 10,000. It sold for 7,139. If I had that kind of money, I'd pay that all day long. It's just a really awesome item. Here was, in my mind, the highlight of the auction, and this was a 3-pack. That was a 3-pack Sears exclusive AFA 75 qualified yellowed Kenner Canada. And it had 3 incredible figures as part of this mini 3-pack. It had the Hoth Stormtrooper, the AT-AT driver, and then, of course, my favorite, the Cloud Car palette. But look how awesome that Kenner Canada Sears exclusive is. That back of that card box is just amazing. Just incredible. I want to do filthy things to this item. It's just awesome. Look at that. And then here's the grade. It's 1981 Kenner Canada ESB 3-pack, Sears exclusive. and three awesome iconic ESB characters. They're all troopers, which makes it really cool. I mean, it's just an awesome item. The value code on it was 10 to 20K. It sold for over double that, for $42,834. If I was independently wealthy, I would have paid that all day long. All day long. Just an awesome item. There were a number of Revenge of the Jedi proof cards that sold. I picked out a couple of them. I certainly didn't include all of them, but I mean, this auction really had everything. I handed it to Hakes. I mean, they were able to pull in just the creme de la creme of awesome items. This is one I was tracking just to see what it sell for, but this is the 21B Revenge of the Jedi proof card. And again, for those of you who are new to this stuff, the original movie, Return of the Jedi, was originally going to be called Revenge of the Jedi, and Kenner actually produced a few card backs early on before the name of the movie was changed to Return of the Jedi. So these proof cards for 50 of the characters are very desirable, and you know, you can find them for, like as I mentioned, 50 different characters. And this one sold for $1,578. That's kind of in line with market, honestly. That's not far away from where they sell on Facebook. This one was a little higher than I expected. This is the IG-88. IG-88, of course, has got a pretty big following now. His prices have really jumped since IG-11's appearance on The Mandalorian, but this was only an 80 plus only. But for a proof card, that's, you know, a little bit lower than most people like. Most people like to have an 85 or, you know, or higher for the proof card, since it's really just a piece of cardboard. But the value code was $1,000 to $2,000 that Hakes had assigned to it, and that's about right. I was expecting $1,500 to $1,800, but it sold for well above that. $2,608 was the final sales price for an IG-88. It's a really good character to have. You know, there's a lot of focus collectors for IG-88, so I think that probably drove the price up a little bit, but that was quite a bit higher than I would have paid myself. Another really interesting kind of line to collect are these transition card Canadian Return of the Jedi. And what happened was Kenner had some Empire Strikes Back overstock. And after the Return of the Jedi figures started to come out, they would slap Return of the Jedi stickers over top of the Empire Strikes Back logo on the front of these cards. Very, very desirable. Very desirable. And they're one of the sub-segments of the vintage Star Wars line that's growing leaps and bounds in terms of price appreciation. Just, there's a very limited production number of those that are out there and legitimate. And, you know, collectors, discerning collectors really want these. And if you want to see some examples of these, check out the Blacked Out Ewoks on YouTube. I believe he's got a Luke X-Wing. That's very nice. And you might have a Luke Hoth as well. I can't remember. But anyway, this is C-3PO, the regular C-3PO, on a Return of the Jedi Star Wars, you know, transition sticker. And you know, it's interesting because C-3PO was not produced on a Return of the Jedi card back. So this is a pretty unique item, and I think that's why the price went so high. It went for $3,940. You know, because by the time the Return of the Jedi came out, it was really C-3PO removable limbs. They stopped kind of producing regular 3POs. So that to have a Return of the Jedi transition sticker with the original first 12 C-3PO, that's a very desirable item. Another one that I was watching, it went way higher than I could afford, but this was a miscard Meccano Yan Solo with a Luke Jedi inside. This is another one that Blacked Out Ewoks has, and a beautiful item. It was a low grade though. It was an AFA 20 because the blister had so much crunching on it. That one, it sat on with no bids until the very end. It was at $500 with no bids until the last day, and it went for $1,947 after the buyer's premium. Really, really cool item. And this is not an uncommon miscard. I've seen maybe a handful, 4 or 5 of these for sale or shown on Facebook over the last, couple of years. So it's not common by any means, but it's certainly not like an ultra rare one. Here was another loose graded. I didn't really cover much loose graded figures in these 2 videos, so I hope you don't mind. But this is a Lily Letty removable hood AFA 80 Jawa. So we've talked about this figure at length. It's a very desirable variant made down in Mexico, and the hood was removable. And this is one I was kind of tracking just to see what it would go for. I was guessing around $1,500, and it blew well past that number, $3,569, which is insanity. No way I pay that. An AFA 85 has typically ranged around $2,000 to $2,500, but obviously that price point needs to be adjusted based on this sale. This is an AFA 80 for $35.69, and that's way higher than I would pay for it. Next, we had a really cool kind of factory sample. This was a quality control sign-off for Bib Fortuna. And for Kenner products, it's a little different than like the Kenner standard cards that you found on Power of the Force 2 items, like we covered in a recent video for the Power of the Force 2 line. Or for anything modern, they use those green cards that they stamp to the back or tape to the back. But for Kenner stuff, they just use these little white tags, and there's all kinds of different variations, but they're kind of handwritten notes about quality control. So it's just a little bit, you know, a little bit more rudimentary in terms of how they handled quality control. And so you can see the label here. It says QC sign-off sticker. It was an AFA 75 yellowed, 77 back A, Bib Fortuna. That sold for $2,208. Really cool kind of factory sample. Now we're going to finish off talking about Clear Blister Return of the Jedi. And I mentioned in many videos over the last, you know, year or so, as it relates to my market updates and how I think that Clear Blister Return of the Jedis are gonna be kind of the next big thing. And these prices certainly support that. The prices for the Clear Blister Return of the Jedi blew away any and all expectations. This was a 65 back B Admiral Akbar, AFA 85, unpunched, no price sticker. The value code was $400 to $700. That's about where I was expecting it to sell. It sold for almost $1,700. So clearly there is a small subset of the market that really loves these Clear Blister Return of the Jedi card backs. Along the same line, same grade, AFA 85 for a 65 back B General Madine. One of those characters that typically yellows very easily. That one about the same price, $1,700 for the General Madine. And then finally, I wanted to show you this one. This was an SB Products Turkish Uze bootleg Chewbacca, and it was still on card. These are, I can't tell you how rare these are. Most people don't care about them, but if you collect bootlegs, you know what you're looking at. You know that this is a really rare item. It was an AFA 60, but you know, these Turkish bootlegs came out around 1988 or so, and they were just wacky. They had wacky kind of card backs. He's called Aslan Adam, is what Chewbacca is. I've got one of these loose graded, but this has got the blister support on there. Really cool item. Here's the back of the card back. Just awesome. Awesome item. And then here's Chewbacca. Very similar. You know, it's very close to the licensed figure, but you can kind of just tell it's just not quite there. But it's a very high grade bootleg, high quality bootleg that is in demand with collectors that know what you're looking at. So anyway, this one sold for $7,139. Just a really beautiful example of the Chewbacca Turkish Uze bootleg that I wanted to make sure to cover since it was part of this auction. That's all I really had for this kind of part 2 Hakes auction update. I hope that you found this information useful. I'm sure that your jaw is as sore as mine is from going like that over and over again as I looked at some of these final sales prices. Just unbelievable sales prices. Congrats to Hakes. Congrats to the sellers, most importantly, because they made some boatload of money. And then also congrats to you buyers. I hope that you guys were able to get some good deals in this last Hakes auction. And hopefully we'll see some even cooler items next time. Thanks again for watching, and I'll be back soon.